What's up, everyone? It is a pleasure to be here, and I'm so excited to have all of you listen into this really fun webinar that we at Magic are about to give. And of course, if you're not familiar with Magic, we'll dive into that later. But more importantly, we really want to dive into a few use cases that revolve around the media and entertainment industry as it relates to Web3 technology. So without further ado, I'm going to pull up a deck. Don't worry, I will make sure this is fun and engaging, and we've got great use cases for everyone to go home and think about. And so with that, let's get started. Wonderful. So again, here we are navigating this world of Web3 and really diving into opportunities for the media and entertainment industries. And so who am I, for those who don't know? My name is Dylan Haddam, and I'm the partnerships lead here at Magic. Of course, I have a deep passion for Web3. And even before I worked in this industry, I was an entrepreneur that built companies in the fintech industry as well as the creative industry. And once I really started to learn about this concept of digital ownership and then how Magic was playing a part in it, I had a light bulb moment and I just felt this is something I need to dive into. And so once I got hooked and I connected with the Magic team, really saw how special this opportunity was. And here we are. So, we've got an action-packed day today. And so there's a few things that we're going to go through. And one is we really want to start off with some foundational knowledge for Web3. We understand it's still very early and people are trying to wrap their heads around what it is, what the use cases are. And I'm really hoping that we can dive into all of that. From there, we're going to dive into Web3 use cases. And I think that's really important. How are media and entertainment companies actually using this technology? And we're going to learn from them and really get a sense of what's working for them and where their further opportunities are to help meet the needs of the challenges that they're currently facing. Moving forward, we're going to dive into customer examples. What better way? So Magic has had the opportunity to work with a lot of really great enterprise companies, including Mattel and Macy's and 7-Eleven. And we'll dive more into that later, but really want to show everyone what we're up to and really dive into those specific use cases and the ROI that these brands are getting from working with Web3 technology. And of course, at the end, we could save some Q&A because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions that everyone is going to have. So, Web3, of course, the elephant in the room, people want to know, what is Web3? But before we go into Web3, we need to understand what happened before Web3. And that's where the concept of Web 1 and Web 2 come into play. So I like to sort of dumb this down a little bit and like to think of Web 1 as the internet that was really read only. And so in Web 1, you had information that was transmitted, but these web pages were static. You couldn't really interact with them. And so, early internet days, if let's say you went to your favorite pizza company's website and you wanted to not only read what they had to offer, but order from the website, you actually couldn't do that. You only had the ability to read off the website, and then you'd have to pick up a phone and call them up to order. Fast forward, and then we entered the world of Web 2. And so Web 2 is the world that a lot of people are very familiarized with these today. And Web 2 is what we consider to be read and write. And so on top of that, though, in Web 2, we're really considered to be like renters of the internet, where we get to post and interact with these different things online. But at the end of the day, the large social media platforms and the other conglomerates really control how we interact with one another. But I think something that's even more important is, what do I mean by read and write? So if you think about your favorite social media platform, you now not only have the ability to look at those images or that copy that's in front of you, like you were able to do in Web 1, but you're now able to write or interact. So you can upload your own images. You can write your own comments. You could put your own emojis and you could heart anything that your heart desires. And so now with all of that, we moved over to this world of Web3. So with Web3, we now see it as read, write, and own. And so the difference here is with owning, you now have this new technology using blockchain, which essentially is a secure and public record of transactions. And these transactions, they're not really controlled by these large organizations. And so I know that sounds like a lot, but I'd like to give you an example where, in Web 2, if you're a band with a really large following on a large streaming platform, and one day that platform goes away, you lose the ability to not only know, but also directly connect with all of your listeners. In Web3 and using blockchain technology, you actually now have the ability to essentially own your relationship with your listeners. And you can then easily bring them to new channels where they can consume your music and further connect with them. And you lose a lot of that divide where you feel like your users are segmented in one platform versus in Web3, you can now bring them into net new platforms and not have them be so fragmented. Don't worry, we're going to dive more into it. So next up is NFTs. And of course, NFTs, non-fungible token, it can sort of feel like jargon, but really at its core, an NFT is just a digital certificate that exists on a shared database. And that certificate, it represents ownership of an underlying asset. It can represent ownership of a ticket. It could represent ownership of a piece of art, music, collectible. It can even represent ownership of a physical item. And that's really critical. So let's dive into it, especially because in the news, we keep hearing about how, NFTs are dying and they're quote unquote worthless. But we need to understand that what they're saying actually only represents one very small use case of NFTs, which is ownership of essentially the subcategory of digital art. So what took off in 2021 was a use case where NFTs, they essentially proved ownership of this subcategory of digital art. A lot of people saw that as these monkeys that were floating around the internet. And what happened was this subcategory of digital art blew up in value largely because of speculative traders who were really hoping just to make a quick buck. And you can compare that to GameStop, where their stock ultimately went up and down because people were speculating. Now, what's really important is that when the media says it's a dying trend, again, they're just talking about this one subcategory. It's kind of similar to how people mistook the speculative bubble and the crash of the internet stocks as a way to say the internet is just a waste of time and it's no longer valuable. This was clearly incorrect. NFTs are fundamentally this new technology for, again, producing verifiable digital certificates that can represent, again, tickets, house deeds, watch authenticity, etc. Before we move on, I just want to use sort of one really clean-cut example, which is an NFT representing a ticket to a concert. So think about the last time that you purchased a ticket specifically from a scalper. It can be downright impossible to confirm if that ticket is real in many cases. However, if that ticket is created as an NFT, then you can really tell the origins of that ticket and know immediately if that person who's selling you that ticket actually owns the ticket and if that ticket is actually real. And this is all done because that information where that ticket is stored is done on essentially this shared database, aka a blockchain. And so this is a great example where it has nothing to do with speculation. It's simply a way to use the technology as a way to verify ownership. Let's keep going on. So, finally, is a wallet. So, you can really think of a wallet as the same as almost a profile or even an account. Where a Web3 wallet, it allows you to store and manage your digital assets, just like a physical wallet holds your tickets, your driver's license, your credit card, or your cash. But most importantly, this wallet is designed for interacting with applications and experiences that use blockchains. And so, remember that ticket example that I keep coming back to? In the future, you are going to own a ticket as an NFT, and you are going to have a wallet store that ticket. Now, the best part is we are moving towards a future where you won't even have to know the technicalities of what a wallet is or even what an NFT is. You're just going to get the benefit of what it does. And in this case, one of the benefits is really knowing if the ticket is real or not real. And so that's just a few definitions and some use cases across Web3, NFTs, and wallet. Now we start going into the bigger picture. Why Web3? And that's really why we're all here, is because we're curious about understanding the significance of Web3 and how it's shaping our technological landscape. So, what's really cool, at least for me, is, you read a lot about what the future of NFTs are, quote unquote, NFTs are worthless, but let's look at the facts. The facts are actually incredibly compelling, where, even over 50% of Fortune 100 companies have pursued blockchain or Web3 related initiatives over the last 4 years. And, this is really critical because at the end of the day, we look towards these really large organizations to help be innovative and move the ball forward. And even if you're reading one thing, we have these great facts that show, like, hey, actually, these companies are really, really interested in understanding what the blockchain can do. And just to be clear, when I say blockchain and Web3, a lot of times it's kind of like intermixed with one another. So don't get confused if I'm using both terms. And one of the reasons why we hear that brands want to use Web3 technology is they're seeing that this can be a way to future proof their business. It's allowing them to engage with their audiences in net new ways. It's unlocking new forms of marketing where they can gamify their marketing even more by giving out these digital assets as, perks for engaging with a brand. And a lot of marketing in Web 2 is very much brands pushing information to the users. Like I said earlier, users are almost like renters of the internet. However, with blockchain, the relationship can now actually start going back and forth. And on top of that, the reality is there actually are ways for businesses to make money off of Web3 technology. But the key is to not necessarily have that as the end goal as just a quote unquote cash grab, but how can you make money by giving back to your community or your users who are ultimately purchasing these NFTs? So, big slide here, a lot of logos. And again, I'm using this as an opportunity to really double down on, we've got some major companies who are dabbling with Web3 technology across all major verticals. I'm looking at my screen over here: retail, sports, media and entertainment, which we're going to dive more into today, food and beverage, technology. And this all goes back to understanding that, sure, there may be some novelty to Web3, but there is also a world where they're seeing that this can help future proof their businesses. And, these companies are using technologies in all sorts of different ways. What I find to be interesting, of course, also because I work at Magic, is at the end of the day, everything that they're doing across these strategies as it relates to their users they ultimately need a wallet or a profile to be able to engage with these brands and own these digital assets. So now's the time to really dive more into Web3 adoption as it relates to the media and entertainment industry. And why we're so excited about this is because it's rapidly gaining traction. And, of course, on the screen, you can see just a few companies that I think all of us would recognize as folks who have entered into the ecosystem. So you've got major folks like Sony Music, Universal Music Group, where they've worked with this really interesting marketplace called Snow Crash, where they're showcasing music collections featuring legends like Bob Dylan, and Miles Davis. Similarly, you've also got Warner Music Group, and they actually have a direct relationship with OpenSea, which is essentially the eBay of NFTs, where they're providing a platform for their artists to engage more directly with their fans. Getting into even more interesting use cases is you've got the likes of Bieber and Rihanna, where, even their producers have started selling NFTs that represent ownership of future royalties of certain songs that they have out in the market. I mean, that's pretty cool to be able to say, hey, I can very easily buy a percent of Justin Bieber's song Company and get a piece of his royalties no matter where that song is streamed in a very easy to use open ledger using blockchain technology. And finally, and we're going to dive into this a bit later, is Spotify introduced this notion of token enabled playlists. And that actually leads us to the next portion of diving more into challenges that we've seen and Web3 solutions to those challenges. So, when it comes to opportunities for media and entertainment, we're going to talk about two challenges that we see encountered time and time again, and how Web3 is really uniquely positioned to solve these challenges. And so, with so many applications of this tech, we want to focus on two use cases. One of them is, how do you boost fan engagement when you're in a competitive, crowded market? Number two is, how do you grow ROI on promotions and brand activations? And what we're going to do is look at different innovative ways that can take these stale promotion tactics and campaigns and really get fans excited. So, starting number one, how to boost fan engagement in a crowded market. That is a tough one. We all know that. It is incredibly difficult to capture the attention of your audience. In today's world, there's an abundant amount of content options. Getting the attention of your consumer across all of these fragmented sources can seemingly feel impossible. What we know, though, is fans ultimately demand personalization, exclusivity, the sense of community, and also ownership. And that ownership can be ownership of their data, plus a share in the value that they create. And, there's a whole bunch of data that really supports this that I'm actually happy to read off of, where, more than half of consumers, 55%, wish for brands to use social platforms to connect with like-minded individuals. 37% believe brands should promote user-generated content. 41% of consumers prefer brands creating private groups like those hosted by Peloton. Simply put, fans don't want to be passive consumers anymore. They want to have loyalty rewarded with exclusive offerings. They want to experience these offerings with like-minded people. And we believe that enabling this can not only boost fan engagement and stronger loyalty, but revenue. And so now with this challenge, there's actually an immediate opportunity to solve it. And I'm personally super excited about this one. And I'm really excited to share it with you all. Okay, so token gating as a service. To those who have not heard about token gating before, it sounds a little crazy. Don't worry, we are going to dive into it. So token gating, it's a Web3 concept that's extremely powerful. It essentially refers to a mechanism where access to certain content, events, services, or even other benefits are controlled by the ownership of NFTs. And so it's actually very simple to think about. Think of an NFT. Remember, an NFT is just a digital certificate that represents ownership of something. So this NFT, it can be a key to unlock a gate which gives you access to something. Sounds actually pretty simple. Now, here's where it's cool. That key can be given to a user, whether they pay for it or earn it, in seemingly unlimited amounts of ways. You can get this NFT, aka key, by going to a special concert, being a part of a raffle, following certain social media accounts, or again, a brand, if they wanted to, could sell these NFTs and give access to certain features. Now, when applied in entertainment, you can imagine this model being used as a technique to encourage and reward fan engagement. So, what you can also do is implement these token gated tiers based on certain criteria. So, you can say if you went to my concert and you collected a NFT in New York and Boston and Miami, I can very easily, as an artist or as a media company, know that you collected those NFTs and be able to set up a website that allows you to connect your wallet or your profile to confirm that you've collected those keys. And I can maybe give you VIP access to an upcoming concert. And so, really, what this all ties into is with Web3, brands can now verify fans across multiple touch points, whether it's from merchandise, purchase confirmations relative to streaming habits. You can then use these keys across all these different access points to give exclusive content and rewards. As I've been doing throughout this presentation, I'd like to really dive into how this works. So, Spotify has been testing token gated in their app since the summer, and they launched this token gated playlist pilot that essentially allows owners of certain NFTs to access various playlists that are curated within Spotify. And so, what's cool is based on this initial data from the pilot, the implementation led to increased app downloads from Spotify, an increase in premium subscription among users, and it also resulted in additional KPIs related to streaming time spent on the platform. And the reality is there's continued benefits for expansion where owning this one NFT to access this playlist, that's only one use case right there. Spotify can say, actually, this key that we gave you, this NFT, can be used to access additional things, whether it's behind the scenes interviews with your favorite artists, whether it's various merch. And the really wonderful thing about this is it ultimately fosters a sense of community where you're able to say, hey, me and a select group of people have these keys that give us access to something else that's scarce and is not unlimited to everyone. Cool? Let's keep going. Another really cool use case here is Universal Music Group. So I'm sure everyone's familiar with Universal Music Group, but the world's leading music company with a presence in over 60 countries. and they worked with this very unique company called Centurify. And so what we can all agree on is media and entertainment companies, they want more access to their fans. The reality is a lot of musicians or folks like Universal Music Group, they connect with their fans through intermediaries such as streaming services or social media platforms. And so what they now want to do is get that direct relationship. And so, before diving in, just to be very clear, if you are a musician and you are playing your songs on Spotify, Spotify doesn't actually show who your specific users are. They just give you very high level demographics in terms of where they live, what their age group is, and what other songs they listen to. They lose out on that first party data, which is really critical for a musician or for a label like Universal. And so in this case, they've actually partnered to bridge music into the digital world. And they created this NFT collection, which is limited to 3,333 digital collectibles. And each of these collectibles gives access to certain things like guest lists at concerts or ensuring pre-sale rights to all artist drops from now and into the future. I find that last part to be really cool because let's be real. If you listen to your favorite artist in the world and you go and see your artist in all different venues across the world, the artist actually doesn't know how great of a fan you actually are. Using this technology, you can prove all of this information, and then your favorite musician can very easily say, hey, if you've been to 5 concerts and stream my music 10,000 times, I will give you a special collectible that can then act as a key to maybe give you VIP access at a future concert. So as we move into challenge number 2, what comes to mind is how do you grow your ROI on promotions? And as we all know, promotions have been around since the prehistoric days. Probably not true, but I'm just going to go with it. And first of all, in this day and age, every brand, it's running promotions and launching new products. And it's very competitive as they're all vying for similar consumers' attention. And for marketers, it's also challenging to know what ROI are you actually driving from these promotions. Secondly is capturing the attention is one thing, maintaining attention is another. Brands often struggle to keep their audience engaged post-promotion and really continue to capture value over their customer lifetime. Turning this engagement into reliable revenue while keeping the audience happy, very, very difficult to do. Brands ultimately need to balance monetization with providing value to their customers. And developing promotions and launches that appeal to these customers is critical. Okay, so now we know what the challenge is. Let's dive a little bit more into the solution. So, the solution really lies in these brands adopting these tailored NFT launch strategies to boost revenue and foster long-term user engagement. NFTs are a great reward mechanism. They can hold intrinsic and extrinsic value. Some are prized for their artistic value and their scarcity, while others, they access real-world perks like VIP events or merchandise. This diverse appeal is very helpful for brands in both the media and entertainment industry who are looking for unique opportunities to engage their fans with enticing rewards. So there's 2 promotional models that we're going to cover. One is Web3 sweepstakes, and 2 is mystery loot boxes. So sweepstakes, it's a promotional tool where essentially valuable prizes are awarded to participants by chance without any purchase or entry fee. The entertainment industry is actually at the forefront of running these contests with an average price value of $370, which is pretty impressive. If I'm a consumer, I'm interested in winning that. Now, the Web3 sweepstakes model takes this common fan engagement and it takes it to the next level, where users can essentially unlock exclusive prizes by minting these NFTs and getting certain points or actions based on what they receive. And why is this really interesting is it essentially gamifies the idea of a sweepstake and it makes it more engaging, where you can reward loyalty with NFTs and offer limited edition virtual collectibles that can also act as tickets or redeemable for other tangible rewards. Second is you have this concept of a mystery loot box. And so the mystery loot box is really inspired by video game loot boxes, which brings an element of surprise to the world of NFTs. So if you reference data from a Web3 native project that utilizes NFTs for loot boxes, the projections show that it can increase this world of value to $20 billion of loot boxes by 2025. Now, what's cool is users purchase a loot box without knowing its contents. So it's incredibly exciting and there's a lot of anticipation because you don't know what you're going to get until you essentially open up this loot box and see what rewards can come with it. And what's even more interesting is users can actually go ahead and trade or sell these NFTs. And this really fuels repeat engagement and the potential for revenue growth. And ultimately, what this model is doing is it emphasizes what consumers want, which is shock value, surprise, and potential financial gain, making it a perfect storm for engagement and sales. So let's actually see how this comes into life and would love to use one of Magic's customers, Mattel. And so I'm sure everyone here is familiar with Mattel. If not, they're a major IP holder and one of their most famous toys are Hot Wheels. So Mattel, as we now know, it's a Fortune 500 company, and they wanted to find a way to engage customers using digital collectibles. And they quickly identified that the value of virtual collectibles could really help grow community and drive new opportunities for their business. And so what we ultimately saw is that they first implemented these loot boxes on a blockchain, which allowed people to purchase these packs of collectibles. And once you collected your collectible, you would then get a surprise digital collectible within it. And depending on what you actually got, you would get different perks. So what's really cool is if you pulled up a super rare NFT, which is what you see with this Pagani Hyra right over here on the screen, you actually could redeem that NFT for an exclusive physical version of that digital collectible. This ultimately provided utility for customers. It built a deeper connection with collectors and their NFT, and it created a one-of-a-kind brand movement. Now, this not only generated a lot of fun for customers, but in one use case, Mattel actually generated $1 million in sales in 30 minutes alone selling these digital collectibles. So, we've now covered some of the challenges and the solutions, and I'm sure you're excited to now test out and explore these solutions and how we can actually bring these concepts to life. And this is where I want to talk a little bit more about who Magic is and dive more into the product demo portion. So a quick intro into who we are. So number one is Magic is a well-funded startup. To date, we have raised over $80 million in funding, led by investors such as PayPal, Synchrony, and other key VCs in Silicon Valley. And we, on top of that, have generated more than 25 million wallets or profiles, which has made us extremely trusted in the space, especially because in the 5 years since inception, we've had zero breaches of any of our wallets. Moving forward is we take security very, very seriously. And so we go through deep compliance and auditing measurements to make sure that all data is secure, it's safe, and it's future proof. So we're the only wallet as a service provider that has SOC 2 Type 2 compliance, HIPAA compliance, ISO, CCPA, and GDPR. Lastly, what really sets us apart is our patented key management technology and its industry leading security and compliance standards. Now, if compliance and security doesn't mean much to you, then speed definitely will. And what we do notice with a lot of other folks in the industry is when they onboard enterprise clients and they want to give NFTs or sell NFTs to their clients, it takes too long to generate these wallets. The beauty of Magic is we have the ability to generate up to 2,000 wallets a second. Now, I don't want this just to be a flex slide. I think this slide's incredibly important because it shows, again, who we actually work with, who trusts Magic. And it's not just other startups. We are fortunate to work with the likes of Mattel, with Macy's, with gaming companies such as Congregate, and a small food and beverage company or retail store known as 7-Eleven. And this continues to grow as we've seen more and more Web3 strategies where they want an easy onboarding solution. And that really leads us to Magic's entire product line. So really what we're looking to do here is create enterprise-ready infrastructure that allows for a seamless setup for wallet creation, minting, and checkout. And so Magic, we have a wallet as a service that we've been building over the past 5 years that allows users to create non-custodial wallets using just email or social logins. So a lot of folks, when they first got into NFTs or digital assets, they had to download either apps or create plugins on their browser, and they had to generate what's called seed phrases. The problem is, if you lose that seed phrase, you lose all access to your profile. So essentially, imagine if you lost your Gmail password and there was no recovery system. The beauty of Magic is we allow for that. So you can now get your normal fans into Web3 and blockchain technology without having to understand the infrastructure. They can just create a profile the same way that we all log into our favorite social media sites. On top of that, we're a one-stop shop where we've got authentication. So you can also allow your users to log in with Google One Tap, logging in with email, social, whether it's Discord, etc. We also offer a NFT minting API. So anytime you need to give an NFT to your customer, there needs to be a transaction. Magic helps facilitate that transaction. Lastly is NFT checkout. So the reality is the average person doesn't want to have to deal or know about cryptocurrency, and that's absolutely fine. We have now entered into the next phase of this technology where you can sell NFTs to your customers and they can purchase them using just a credit card, a debit card, or even PayPal. Next up, I'd like to show you a demo solution in real life. And so I'm assuming everybody watched Barbie over the summer. Barbiecore, hot, everyone loves it, amazing. And this is a real customer of Magic and a real example of a product integration where the team at Barbie partnered with another company called Boss Beauties to allow their fans to collect digital Barbie dolls. And this demo is going to show you how easy it is to purchase and claim these digital collectibles the same way you would purchase an item in a regular e-commerce store. And so let's sort of dive into it. So once you go to the website, you ultimately look for the item that you are looking to purchase. And what you're going to want to do is add that to cart, which again, I think all of us are familiar with. And so once you then ultimately add that to cart, and just so everybody knows, this entire website was built on Shopify's infrastructure, which is incredibly cool. And so you add it to cart, and you're now prompted to check out. Again, same as a Web2 flow. And here we're actually using Shop Pay, and we'll choose Google Pay as the payment method. You now go to Pay Now, and what you're ultimately going to see after you click Pay Now is that your order is being processed. And just like that, you have purchased your Barbie collectible. Now, the next step is you're going to receive an email to then collect that collectible and then find out what's actually inside of it. And hopefully we got a rare NFT. So here you can see you have a screen, claim your virtual collectible. And when you do that, it's essentially putting that collectible inside of your wallet that we've been talking about, or your profile, if you want to call it. And again, the whole cool flow here is there's no crypto talk, there's no NFT talk. It's a very Web2 e-commerce experience. So now let's open our pack and let's see if we got anything rare. Hopefully we did. But if not, you'll know that I didn't game the system. And here we go. Boom. 4 Boss Beauties by Barbie. None of them are rare or exclusive, but I would say this is a pretty decent set nonetheless. So very cool demo just to show you what we're doing with Mattel and Barbie and Boss Beauties. And that ultimately leads us to the end. So again, my name is Dylan Haddam. I am more than happy to help out anyone if you have any questions. We're here to solve for any solutions that you're looking to have implemented, or you have a Web3 project or idea, or you just want to brainstorm a little bit more. You can also, and I recommend booking a demo with other experts at the company. My coworkers are incredible, and you can go to magic.link/contact, and they'll be able to take care of you. And so I really want to thank you all for joining today's webinar. I personally had a lot of fun, and I love educating people on all the really cool things that you can do. And I want you to know that we're here to be a resource. This is very difficult technology to really wrap your head around, and it's not something that you can just solve in one day by yourself with a whiteboard. It's very important to have a team around you, and we want to be that team. And so I thank you all very much. Happy to take on Q&A and excited to meet everyone in the future. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the rest of your year. Be safe. And thank you all very much. Goodbye.